if you'll bow your heads. Dear Lord, thank you so much for allowing us to be here tonight to conduct the business of this town and for our community. Please give us the wisdom to move the town forward and make the right decisions tonight. Please with those tonight, Lord, that are battling an election, be with the voters so that your will be done in the future. Please allow us to be a resemblance of your love and forgiveness, and please be with our troops and our first responders and keep them protected under your wing. In your name we pray. Amen.
Let's stand and pledge allegiance to the flag. This week is designated as Veterans Week in Benson. So think about the veterans that are alive and the ones that we've lost as we go through this. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You can be seated. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I made a motion.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I'll entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Public comments. New hire Jan Murray, Kim Pickett.
So I would like to introduce you all to Mr. Jay Murray. He has over 20 years of experience in construction management. He started last week and has hit the ground running, joining me on some of our meetings that we're having with engineers, and he's also working on a few projects that I have given him as far as like the electric building and the L-shaped building out at the fire department. So I introduce you, Jay.
Hi, good evening. My name is
Good
Jay
e-
Murray, and as Kimberly's mentioned, I am a construction project manager. I started last Monday. I brought candy in my office, did not see one child, so if anybody's hungry, please come down and visit me. But I am looking forward to meeting everyone. I've met some people, and I've had some very good, tremendous experiences with the people I've met, and really looking forward to improving the facilities and helping the people of Benson. Thank you very much.
Welcome, Jay.
Thank you.
We'll now call on the Wooten Company to update us on the projects they have going, and I can tell you, these are some of the most important there is in the world.
Important projects. Thank you, Mayor. And it's a great evening to be in front of you, council or commissioners. My name is Miles Galloway. I serve as the environmental practice manager for the Wooten Company. As most of you probably know, this is Brian Johnson. He is our director of civil engineering within the company, and we wanted to kind of give you an update. Kim asked us to kind of give you some information on the current projects that are ongoing for the town. And I know there's a lot of interest around the wastewater treatment plant, specifically regarding the expansion of the facility, and more importantly, where the discharge is going to be located at. So we prepared a presentation real quick, hopefully no more than 10-15 minutes to kind of summarize all this stuff, but please feel free to ask any questions during the presentation. We also have some time as we conclude. So just a quick overview of what we're going to discuss. Again, the wastewater expansion discharge evaluation that we're currently performing. I will kind of preface this by saying there's a lot of information that is still being determined, and there are a few questions that have yet to be answered. There's a lot of communication with the Department of Environmental Quality, which is the one that kind of governs the ability to procure or obtain any new or expanded discharge locations. I know it's also important to this body to discuss scheduling and timing, and specifically regard to funding. And then we'll kind of close it out with some of the current projects that are currently going on in the town, including the new headworks at the wastewater treatment plant. There's also a septic receiving study, a feasibility study, and then Brian's going to close with the current Mingo Interceptor sewer project. So first off, so the town in Wooten, as well as some members of this board had a meeting with the Department of Environmental Quality back on October 19th. We spoke with the actual people in charge and that are heading up that division to really kind of get an idea of what options we have for an expansion, and more importantly, where can we put the treated wastewater. Some of you may or may not know that the current discharge location in the Hannah Creek is into an impaired body of water. That impairment is actually a length of Hannah Creek, and it actually becomes unimpaired at a certain distance. But due to it being classified impaired according to the 303D list, there is no way that we can expand any flow volume beyond the current capacity of the plant, which is 1.9 million gallons per day. Just a little background, the 20-year projection is 3.75 million gallons per day, so double. And that also includes a lot of industrial growth at Berry and some allowance for some additional commercial and industrial properties. So one of the things, again, we were talking about Hannah Creek existing discharge. We knew that that was kind of a long shot, but there has been some regulation changes here recently with some new leadership within DEQ. We wanted to include that, see if there was any option to even look at some type of expanded discharge in volume. They pretty much shot it down immediately, which we understood was probably going to be the case, and we just wanted to make sure that we crossed that off the list from a due diligence standpoint. I mentioned this regulation change. It is, I believe it was this past summer, to where the state will consider what they they will consider a swamp classification or an SW classification for potential discharge. This is new. Previously, it would immediately be cut dead on the floor if you were trying to get into a swamp. And however, nowadays, or at least since this regulation has changed, they will begin considering it, which is important because you have Mingo Swamp as the closest water body besides Hannah Creek to the facility. And as we were discussing during this meeting, it became very clear and was directed to us that any receiving stream, potential receiving stream for a new location had to meet the criteria that's set forth in the North Carolina Administrative Code for low flow. We identified several around the plant in both the Cape Fear River Basin as well as the Neuse River Basin. And the two closest and probably the most feasible from a cost perspective to this facility in the best interest of the town included going a little bit beyond the impairment of Hannah Creek as well as going directly into Mingo Swamp. So at this point, we were directed from the state, or given direction, that these were potentially viable options, and there was some next steps that need to be done to evaluate them. So as you can see, just summarizing, Mingo Swamp is in the Cape Fear River Basin. It is classified as swamp, but there is no impairment. And then you have Hannah Creek beyond the impairment, which is in the Neuse, which no longer has the impairment that's currently at the existing plant. So I'm going to quickly discuss Mingo Swamp and some of the benefits and the cons to this one. It does meet those low flow criteria. However, due to its flow volume, there is some effluent limitations that it will be subjected to from the plant. And I say effluent, meaning the treated wastewater that comes out of the back of the plant. When they test it for different parameters and pollutants, they're a little bit more stringent through the cleaning process. However, the current facility already meets these stringent limitations. So this is not really going to be much of an issue unless there's a case-by-case basis that they may require some additional treatment, which we could definitely look into if that becomes the case, if it's feasible. The second thing, and this is kind of the big crux of the whole Mingo Swamp solution, is that it's going to require modeling to determine a waste load assimilation. I know that's bigger words, but basically what needs to happen and what's currently being done by the state is they're modeling the middle Cape Fear River Basin to determine any wastewater stream that's been treated that goes anywhere into the Cape Fear Basin, how does it impact the receiving stream at a low flow characteristic? In other words, if we discharge into a stream, is what characteristics of that wastewater limit, or what limit of that wastewater characteristics is going to impact it environmentally. A modeling effort is going to determine that, and it's going to allow the state to set a permitted limit that would then be held subject to an MPDES or discharge permit for the plant. One benefit that Mingo Swamp going into the Cape Fear River Basin proper has is it alleviates an interbasin transfer. Currently, the way the town receives drinking water is it purchases it from, I believe, the city of Dunn, which is in the Cape Fear River Basin. That water then crosses that basin line into Benson. It goes down your drains, toilets, what have you, goes to the Benson wastewater treatment plant. It then goes out into the Neuse River. At a certain volume, this can potentially become an environmental concern, which is regulated by the state. And that figure, I'll get into it as we discuss Hannah Creek, has a certain volume of daily water purchases that kind of starts a process called the Interbasin Transfer Certification, which I'll get into shortly. Looking at the potential discharge locations that have been identified beyond the impairment and the different routings that can be taken, or excuse me, this is Mingo. Looking at the different locations within Mingo, and depending on where the discharge can be located based on modeling and determination of effluent limitations, it could be anywhere from 4.5 to 6.5 miles of force main beyond the plant. So you're treating the wastewater at the plant, you have clean water, then you have to pump it to Mingo. That pipeline is anywhere from 4.5 to 6.5 miles. So with that said, kind of the next steps when pursuing a Mingo Swamp option is the need to complete a hydrologic model. And once that's completed and it's determined there's potential for viability, again, this is not a guarantee if the modeling is performed. There is some risk associated with it. The modeling can be completed and it could be a no-go based on the results. So there is a little bit of risk, or excuse me, there is risk. And once, hopefully, that would be positive, you could then request the state provide you with a discharge permit limit. There is some other factors and things going in there, but these are some of the kind of the major next steps.
Is that modeling being done now?
You are correct, yes. The state is modeling the middle Cape Fear River. However, that modeling has not been completed. It's not, last I heard, not expected to be completed until the end of 23. And there's some additional steps beyond that before the state would be issuing permitting for any new or expanded discharges. Again, this is my understanding from what I've been told. But getting that modeling team to work its way up into Mingo Swamp would be beyond probably the middle Cape Fear and some of the larger water receiving streams into it. Mingo Swamp's kind of a little smaller reach of stream that feeds into, I believe, the Black Creek and then goes into the Cape Fear River. So there will be some time delay without going forward using a consultant to perform the modeling, which the state has, according to what they've told us, will they do approve that with the presentation of a plan to the state.
Well, I thought they were gonna allow us to get somebody to do that.
That's correct, yeah, and I apologize, maybe I misspoke there. The state does allow consultants to complete that modeling.
Okay.
That is a two-phase, or called a two-step process. You would present to DEQ, the state, here's the plan. They would review it, they say this looks good, and then you get the green light to go out and do the in-field site work.
How about
actually
what
taking
does this
samples.
modeling run?
It's, I don't want to give any specific numbers, but what I have heard from
Ballpark.
different consultants that perform this work, you're probably looking at a minimum $200,000 to complete that work. It is a very intensive study. It takes months. And as we all know, there's some timelines and scheduling that need to be considered when it comes to a discharge for that facility.
I think one thing to think about when you're thinking of the cost, though, you know, particularly comparing to the next thing that Miles is gonna talk about, is just the savings in the force main length. You know, it's a closer discharge for you guys, closer option, so you spend money up front, but the payoff would be the back end where you save millions. So but there's risk, and that's, we wanna make sure that's clear.
Yeah, and the modeling can be done, and just like you said, the state say, nah, it doesn't work. Understand that, and I understand there's some funds out there that would be provided or could be provided to pay for this modeling. I just, wanna make sure that in this, everybody understands there is a cost to it, and we do have some funding coming back for this. I'm all about it. It's got to be done, and if it would have been done 10 years ago, it would have been a lot cheaper. It's just like everything that we have been so far behind with our infrastructure, and we're starting to look at it now, and it's a must. If some of these things are not done, I just want y'all to also in this, I keep bringing it up. We get water from Harnett County, or we get water from Dunn. And Dunn's got some sewer capacity, and we're real close to Dunn's sewer line. Is there any options there, if we don't get Mingo, is there any options there to tie in our sewer and let them be processing our sewer, pay them for the sewer over toward Love's truck stop? You say they ended up getting sewer because the rooms to go came in, they requested it, they paid money to them, and there's got to be a line right across from what we're talking about that maybe we could take it to our pumping station and send it their way as far as for them to treat.
That is certainly a potentially viable option. I will tell you that's not something that we have looked into as far as what you probably consider a regionalization effort. That
Yeah,
is-
well, I just didn't know just how much of this goes into modeling. Is it just modeling this one area and it doesn't look at, say, a 3-mile radius of where we're starting at?
Yeah, the modeling that Miles is talking about here is just specific to the stream itself.
Yeah, okay.
This is for us to discharge.
Right, just for the town of Benson. But going back to your other question too, I haven't followed the city of Dunn's current situation, but I do know that back when you all were put under moratorium a couple years ago, you're not under moratorium anymore. But they were also put under a moratorium for sewer connections. You couldn't connect any more sewer. And as I understand it, their situation was worse. In other words, y'all were sitting at around 82% of your plant capacity, and I think they were in the 90s. I don't know where they currently are, but I don't think they've got the ability to take you guys on at their current facility.
Okay.
They may have to expand.
And if they did,
similar
they
to you
could turn
guys.
around and say, when they're at capacity, say, y'all quit.
Pull it back.
discharging.
Well,
Yeah.
Well,
are y'all aware, and I'm sure you are, so some of us have been contacted by the county because they have potentially put together a regionalization plan that goes all the way through Sampson, into Sampson, Cumberland County, Johnson County. Are y'all aware of this plan? Where do we fit into that? Because of the plans that I've seen that they've sent us, we're not included in that regionalization line at all. And so is there any, I'm asking y'all because y'all are our sewer people, is there any benefit to us having conversations with them about becoming that regionalized plan so that we're not duplicating efforts with taxpayers' dollars?
Right, yeah, don't wanna do that for sure. To answer your question on that, we are aware that things are going on. I didn't know the county was leading that necessarily, but I have heard that there's some regionalization plans. We've not seen any of those plans in terms of details or anything. I do think that, any plan is certainly worth to checking out to make sure it's in the best interest. The idea is making sure it's whatever Benson does is in the best interest of Benson, right? So I think the things that would be interesting to know and certainly to find out is, what the overall scope of the plan is and the cost for the town, as it may compare to something we're looking at here. But at this point, we've not seen those details. So.
And I do want to make note that as far as the modeling that they're talking about that we need to do on Mingo, I've been talking with Chandra at the county about potentially the county granting us funds to pay for that modeling, because that's going to help them in the long run as well. If we can get that modeling study done with Mingo, they would benefit. So I've been talking with her to have them pay for that.
Well, see, I'm with William. I've seen the plans, and the regional plans kind of look like, well, we're bypassed. But this is a county thing. We're providing the county with sewer. And with this, all it does is increase their sewer capacity back to us. And I just don't understand why we would be kind of stepchild on this, and they would not be willing to put money into it.
We are not a stepchild to it. That line that they're talking about goes from Four Oaks all the way to the Cumberland County line down at Westover. And when you look at that, that probably could be ready in 20 years. And the cost would probably be $150 to $125 million. Now, we can't wait any more than 3 years to get some sewer capacity. The sewer plant that we're talking about will be ready probably in 4 years after we get the plant, we start construction. But the other part of what they're talking about is just not a possible thing for us to be able to continue any kind of growth without some additional sewer after 4 years.
I just wonder, I don't disagree that that's a timeline off, but I would just wonder if the county's expending tax funds, because all of our citizens pay county tax dollars as well as town tax dollars, is it worth it to you as town of Benson when we have those plans, because we've been given those plans as a municipality, to sit down and say, while we're spending tax dollars, should we not reach out to that other service and sit down and say, do we need to provide to that possibly to hook on to us in the future, versus the plans that we've seen are miles outside of town and go right by our substation, but do not include the town of Benson when they include Four Oaks and every other community down the line. And I just want to make sure that we're not going to be left behind in 10 and 15 years, and my children are going to look and say, why didn't y'all hook on to that? Or why didn't y'all at least have those conversations before you started spending money? And so I'm just asking you, would that be beneficial to y'all? If we could provide that information to y'all as a community, the plans that we have seen in the regionalization, does that help you do your job? That is what I'm asking. So
Yeah, I think anything's worth looking at and just seeing the feasibility of it, right?
Right.
So yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Can we get those shared with them?
First of all, there's a pumping station in Benson. I mean, it's right on the map, right on the plant. And the whole thing was a result of when the business got divided up between the engineering companies. Wooten, by agreement with Ravenel, took the sewer, and they took the water and a lot of other things, and the dollars is being generated out of Benson. There's more dollars going to Ravenel than there is to them. And so it's, I'm not saying it's not a good plan, I'm just saying it don't fit where we're trying to get to now in the next 3 to 4 years. Okay.
Again, just to kind of close on the Mingo alternative here, completing this hydrologic model and again, assuming that this is a favorable result from the modeling, the next step after that would be requesting a speculative limit request. Again, that is what limits do we need to treat to discharge into it. The state would provide that, and then you can move forward with the design and preliminary design.
So the mayor just advised it's 4 years from time of construction until we open up a plant. What kind of timeline are we looking on approval for an increase if we find a location that's suitable to DEQ?
And I'm going to get to some scheduling here shortly, but
I'm sorry.
assuming we have the speculative limits in hand,
Right.
you're then applying for a permit modification, and that would include a new pipe number to your NPDES permit to coincide with the existing, and that could be anywhere from 3 to 6 months,
Okay.
really depending on the staffing and what the current workload is over at the state level.
So the realization of us meeting the 2026 deadline is very close.
That it is, and one thing I will say after discussion with the state is the 2026 deadline regarding the ARPA funds. The state has told me that they have a dedicated team that is strictly focusing on any ARPA projects.
Yeah.
So you're not being funneled through with everyone else. You're in this pile, and that's their full attention.
Okay.
They do not want, and they reiterated, do not want any recipient of ARPA funds to be subjected to potentially losing that money. Something to consider. But I'll get to a schedule here as I close out.
Question
Yep.
on the Hannes Creek and also the Mingo.
Mhm.
Say the studies are done and we don't get any more capacity to discharge into Hannes Creek or into Mingo. What Jerry is saying, we don't need. If we can't discharge it, then we can't process it, right? I mean, the way I understand it, we can get all the capacity, we can get all the water we want to from Harnett County, Johnson County. We can supply housing. Our big problem right now, we have got some capacity left, but we've got limits on what we can discharge into Mingo. We can't discharge anything into Mingo right now, but Hannes Creek, hadn't we got limits on that?
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody comes up and say, we won the $1.2 billion and we could afford it right now, that don't mean we get it right now, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
You do need to have a permit to discharge beyond the 1.9.
And we're at 81%. Is that what you just said? 80.
That's what you were in 2020.
We're back down.
Ironically, a lot of that's rainfall driven, so you actually dropped the latest. Ryan,
62.
62.
Okay.
So we're back down.
So,
Okay.
but to your point, the rain starts raining again, and you'll be back up there, and you'll have issues again. So that's why it's so important to get this under control.
And I do want to say that the two options that are being presented here are the ones that have kind of risen to the top of some additional options, mainly due to the benefit of Benson being cost. These are potentially viable based on what we heard from the state. And as I started, there is some additional vetting that needs to occur to confirm that. But if you're looking beyond the 1.9 and say beyond the pyramid of Hannah Creek or Mingo Swamp, there is still going directly to the Neuse River. There's not going to be much of an issue receiving a permit in the Neuse proper. However, that is 12 miles of pumping. So at that point, it becomes the cash.
That 1.2 billion would come in handy.
That's right. That's right. So with the Hannah Creek alternative, again, this is beyond the impairment that the current discharge is at. Much like Mingo Swamp, it meets the receiving stream flow criteria set forth in the administrative code with the same effluent limitations. It's not a Neuse River. It's a slower moving stream that is impacted during droughts. However, unlike Mingo, it does not require this modeling effort. This is the Neuse River. It's been well studied over decades. There's a lot of data. So they've already established a nutrient reduction strategy within the Neuse River, so that's not going to be a requirement. However, going back to this, I should say ITB, but the it is IPT, the Interbasin Transfer Certification that Mingo would not be subjected to will come into play at some point once growth exceeds an average daily water supply of 2 million gallons per day. Again, you're buying your water from the Cape Fear River Basin, you're discharging it and putting it into the Neuse River Basin. This can be a regulatory and environmental concern. So there is a study that would have to occur that takes 3 to 5 years, from what I've been told, to get this certification, to be able to do this. However, again, that's not a step that would be impacted to the construction of an expanded plant or a new force main into the Neuse River Basin. This is something that would happen likely soon, and I say soon, not in the immediate terms, but in the short term, it's something that would need to be done. Assuming that growth continues to happen in Benson as is projected. The second thing that's to the con side of things is you are going to be limited to what you can discharge into the Neuse River Basin on flow. Currently, this is all tied to the nitrogen allocations that the town has in the Neuse River Basin. At 3.75 million gallons per day, and assuming the best available treatment technology to reduce nitrogen in the wastewater, 3.75 is where you will start to exceed the town's nitrogen allocation through the Lower Neuse River Basin Association. Currently, at the existing flows, you have plenty of leftover nitrogen credits at the end of the year and serve as a town revenue at the end of the year. You can lease those off or sell them. I'm not sure exactly what the appropriate term is, but different users within the basin will say, I need some credits. Benson's can sell them and make a little bit of revenue. So that would be lost, and you would limit any future growth beyond 3.75 without either buying new credits or finding another discharge in the Cape Fear, unfortunately. So that is a limiting factor on this this alternative. As Brian had mentioned, there is the difference in the force main. In this case, the identified discharge beyond the impairment is on North Carolina Highway 96, where it intersects Hannah Creek. That's about 7 miles with the force main trying to maintain a routing along DOT maintained roads. So you're looking anywhere from 2.5 to half a mile longer than the Hannah Creek alternative. And at this stage, based on what we understood from our phone conversation with the Department of Environmental Quality, the next step is to request speculative limits at this location. At that time, they could review and then either provide a thumbs up, this will work. They'll give you a speculative permit where you can design a facility to, or they can shut it down. But this one obviously has the least amount of steps and would be a lot closer of a timeline to be able to release on any type of facility construction. I don't know if y'all have any questions on
What are we
Hannah
looking
Creek
at expanding this to? Remind me.
3.75.
3.75.
Yeah, that's coincidentally.
Okay, all right.
It is 3.75.
So we're trying to go to our max available in the news.
We are. That 375 was based on a 20-year projection for the town.
But
we
isn't the
just kind
town
of
set real good, Air County set real good with nitrogen credits?
yes, right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, at this stage you have over double at the end of the year. I mean, the facility's treating really well. All right, so lastly, I want to discuss the schedule and timing, and I do apologize for the font size. What I've provided here is some of the more higher level major steps of taking it from this particular point in time to completing a construction closeout. And I've added some dates in here. This is more of a conservative approach to this. There is some permitting delays and questions that still would need to be answered, and timings based on completing certain activities and how quickly we can get it turned around from the state level. And there is some room to do some of these different things concurrently within each alternative, so this could be expedited to some degree. But I did want to point out that if we began the modeling effort, and I'm going to start on Mingo Swamp, if we began the modeling effort here then shortly, we would expect that we could wrap that up by this time next year, roughly. And we would get that submitted to the state, get their approval. Then at that point, we could move into obtaining spec limits, have that done by the end of next year. At that point, we would need to revise the engineering alternatives analysis, which was completed to relieve the town of the sewer line moratorium. That would be a very quick update. We could get that turned around to the state, which in point they would approve it, and then you could begin doing preliminary engineering as well as the engineering design beginning early 2024. In the meantime, between getting the EAA, the engineering alternatives analysis, submitted, it's flexible on submitting the NPDES permit modification package. That would be important for Mingo, considering there's a little flex time for completing the modeling and getting that reviewed. And then ultimately submitting and getting approvals, permitting all in hand, you can get your authorization to construct around that second quarter of 2025. Then you could go off to advertising, then bidding, construction, with a kind of a later date of closing out that project in November of 2026, which fits within the current ARPA milestones. But you can see that is, it is a conservative area of things. It can be done currently. That modeling is the kind of the crux of things at this stage.
The 2026, you said we had to be done with the project by 2026, right? In this timeline, how much time is given for weather events or anything like that? Because I know a lot of projects get delayed and they run way over because of weather.
Yep. Excuse me. I think we've got shown here 18 months of construction, 16 to 18 months of construction. A facility, we can be constructing, or the contractors could be constructing the force main and the plant at the same time. Ideally, you're probably looking at anywhere from 12 to 14 months, at least from the plant perspective, depending on where the discharge locations and different types of drilling that might have to occur through under roads or wetlands, what have you. It would probably fall in that same time frame. So I think there is a little bit of time. And Brian, I don't know if you would agree that based on that timeline, it incorporates, I would think, a reasonable amount of delays due to weather events.
There's a request sitting out there right now to extend the designation of the money from 24 to 25 and the 26 to 27, 28. Whether it's approved or not, I don't know.
The other thing to think about here too, and again, this is a little bit of semantics, but the project itself is going to be more than the allocation the town currently has. So, you know, if the requirement by the federal commitment is to expend the funds by 2026, there's nothing to say that the town couldn't say the first $22 million of this project are gone. And you know, even if the project got delayed, those funds get expended before the 2026. Yeah. So it's a little bit of an angle we might would, if we had an issue.
With that timeline, you're running into a lot of risk.
It is. It's right up against the end there.
Yeah.
It is. And to Mayor, your point, there's you know, with the extension request being floated out there, I can't speak for DWI, but I know that Benson will not be the only recipient of these funds that's running into a situation like this.
So just make sure I'm clear, is this still an either or? Because when we were in that meeting the other day, I felt like Hannah Creek was no longer an option.
This is Hannah Creek beyond the impairment.
This is not, yeah,
Okay.
not where we
So
actually
we're trying to hook
discharge.
into beyond the impairment,
Yeah.
which would keep you from having to do all of the modeling. My
Correct.
question is, if you submit Hannah Creek, because obviously it sounds like that's gonna be the cheaper version, how long is it gonna take them to respond to us, and then we have to go to Plan B and start Plan B in April or May because we're waiting on a response to the Hannah Creek request?
To answer that question, I think I may have misunderstood you there. The Mingo Swamp would be the cheaper alternative.
Okay.
As it sits now, it's a shorter force main.
Okay, all right.
Both of these alternatives still have the plant facility being constructed.
Okay,
The time gap here between the two is the modeling for the Cape Fear River, which would be Mingo Swamp.
okay.
My recommendation or suggestion would be to pursue the Hannah Creek speculative limits request to see if that's a viable alternative. If it becomes viable, then you know at that point you can get a discharge into it. While that's being done, concurrently, you can begin the modeling effort to get into Cape Fear, and if that comes back positive, then it's a no-brainer to go to Mingo because of this
It's cheaper.
interbasin transfer, it's cheaper.
Even with the 200,000 in model? it's
Correct.
cheaper. Okay,
Yeah.
all right,
Yep.
okay.
Yep, so, again, you know, the Hannah Creek one, that's beyond the impairment, and you can see that timeline is about 11 months expedited, and that's because of the modeling.
Okay.
But again, some of that can be done concurrently, those timelines can be
So
expedited.
Mingo's option A, it'll be cheaper even with the modeling, and then Hannah Creek is our alternative if that doesn't work out.
Correct.
Okay.
Mingo holds more risk,
Okay,
and that's due to the modeling
all right.
and being in the Cape Fear.
Now I got another question.
Yes, sir. No, you're fine.
Deal with the nitrogen credit world or anything like that. You did say it was with the Neuse River.
The Lower Neuse Basin Association. So the Neuse River is
So
regulated for.
that credit is just for the lower Neuse. So if we discharge in the Mingo, it's gonna go to Cape Fear.
No, that's not.
It's not?
Nope, you will still maintain all of your credits in the Neuse River. So
Okay.
you can discharge, throwing this out there hypothetically, you can, I would suggest still maintaining that Hannah Creek, the existing discharge.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Then at the end of the year-
3.75 over there, and I didn't know if we are gonna have an additional, or if that 3.75 gotta go for Cape Fear.
Correct. And what the modeling would show us in Mingo is, it might not get you 375
Right.
because of the flow.
We could lease them,
You could, yeah.
not sell them.
So Mingo, we
Right,
would
yeah.
request 3.75. They might come back and say, you can only do 1.9, just like you got in Hannah. So you could pump up everything you've got to Mingo today, and you could still maintain all your nitrogen credits, and you could lease those at the end
Yeah,
of the year
that
for
was my
revenue
question,
generation.
yeah.
Yes.
Where we gonna have
And
it.
I would advise keeping that
Yeah.
existing
Yeah.
pipe.
Brian, in our last update, which was our town board retreat back in February, you advised that they were currently studying the Cape Fear to see if we could potentially use that as a future discharge. Have they gotten anywhere in that study, or is it still at a standstill?
Well, they're moving. They
They're-
are moving. They're
okay.
still doing it, but it's probably going to be late next year now before they're going to
So,
get done.
so beyond the time that it helps us any, unless we need it for beyond 3.75, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
They're coming along slowly.
All right. Excuse me. That's pretty much the update I had on the expansion and the discharge alternatives, you know, kind of where we currently stand and some of the next steps. Again, there are some questions that need to be answered. Y'all have some great questions that hopefully we were able to provide you with enough information at this stage. We are continuing to work with the new leadership at the MBDS discharge unit. And we do understand this is an important issue, and timing and scheduling is, you know, paramount at this stage. So we will continue to work with Kim and Brian, give them updates and scheduling meetings with those folks as new information comes to light and as questions come up to kind of keep this thing rolling on behalf of the town. So,
Appreciate the update. Thank y'all very much.
Oh, and they got more.
Yeah, we've got a few more.
We'll keep
We can plow through these real quick. I know you've seen pretty much all of these. The wastewater treatment headworks, this is a currently contracted project funded through the Division of Water Infrastructure. I believe at your board retreat, Brian updated you on this project. Just as a reminder, it's to construct a new headworks, which again is the front of the plant. It's a physical means of removing pollutants like your rags and all the other stuff people put down into the sewers. Brian can tell you about it. There's some sketches there to kind of give you an idea if you're into some of these designs, but it is to replace the existing, and it will be sized for an average daily flow of 3.75 MGD. Again, that's the projected 20-year demand for the expanded plant, so we have approval on that. We have completed the 60% design. We actually met with Jay and Kim and Brian this past week to kind of go over those drawings. And right now, per the schedule and the milestone dates for the loan, the design will be submitted January 3rd for those milestones, which we are on track to hit, and likely construction starting sometime in 23, probably end of summer. I had to kind of ballpark at this point by the time reviews from the state are done, any comments are addressed, and then advertising and bidding. This project is $3.6 million for the loan. I will say, as of now, and those of you that are familiar with construction, there is some volatility in construction market. However, we, at this stage, feel pretty good about the current funding, that we'll be able to keep that within budget. And again, just as a reminder, this is essentially a 0% interest loan from DWI over 20 years. The last thing I'll update on before I hand it over to Brian is the septage receiving feasibility study. So Kim and Brian, and I think you know, Tim to some degree before he left, was considering the means of generating some additional revenue at the wastewater treatment plant. And Brian brought this idea of septage receiving, which a lot of his colleagues in the industry have. And what this is basically what it sounds. Septage trucks will go pump out local septic tanks within the area. They can bring it to the facility. They'll pay a fee for it. Benson takes it, and they can assimilate it into their treatment process for additional treatment. So again, it's a way to generate revenue, and I know that Brian has told me that he gets calls all the time from haulers seeing if they can receive this. As part of this feasibility study, it's to review the existing data from the plant to make sure that just the way the plant is set up can handle it. That's about 90% done. Right now, everything's looking great. The next stage is going to be to determine the appropriate sizing. And then the critical thing is going to be the economic analysis. We'll look at cost estimates to install a structure of this nature, and then discussing with Brian and Kim on what should be assumed at this stage, the number of septic haulers that would be coming daily or weekly, and look at a payback schedule essentially on that capital investment. And then we'll also kind of lay it out preliminarily next to the headwork structure that we just discussed about. So it all kind of, it's a puzzle that's all kind of fitting together, looking towards the future. And the portion of this, this part of the study is to deliver a technical memo that has all that information that we can come present to you once that's completed. And we expect to do that by the end of the year. If the town so chooses to move forward with the construction of this, we can then begin doing a design and move it into an actual construction project.
Will you be able to provide us with any projections? So we used to do this, and then we got in trouble, and then we had to quit it when we got the moratorium because we were over our percentage and got fined. So obviously, I'm sure there are tons of contractors out there that are looking for a place to dump. My fear is right now we're looking to get at 62. Will you be able to provide those projections to say you should be able to handle this much in carried on waste from contractors and still be safe in your percentage when we do that? If we do decide to build this, I love the idea of revenue, but it scares me getting us in trouble again like we were a couple of years ago. That's going to end up costing us in fines. So
it will, and we will complete that analysis. What's different about something like this, and again, this is just a stock photo to kind of give you an idea of what one looks like. There's nothing like this out at that facility. I'm not exactly sure how the prior operations.
I think they just dumped it in the pond.
I think you're right. I think you're correct. But which unthinkingly assisted in some of the issues that were occurring there.
Hook in and drop it into
Is
their
that what it is? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, so they'll bring it in, there's a screening mechanism, it's automated to some level, to really as high as Brian and the town would like for it to go. And ultimately, it would be plumbed in to either discharge into the ponds, which are the equalization basins. It can be routed into the new headworks directly. And then as part of the overall, I guess, proposed expansion, you could also reroute it to kind of a side stream treatment area, which could really benefit treatment depending on the concentrations that are coming in. So it's flexible. But yes, to answer your question, this is a little review. All right.
All right, last but not least, here we go. I'll just kind of roll through this fairly quickly as well, recognizing the time, but just to quickly remind you what the Mingo Interceptor Sewer Project is 12,000 feet of gravity sewer. Yeah, the pointer doesn't work. The 12,000 feet of gravity sewer, that's the purple line, I guess you will, along Mingo Creek there. And then there's a couple lines going up to some existing pump station, Chicopee Pump Station, as well as Kings Court Pump Station. Then there's about 17,800 feet of force main. That includes force main from a new pump station there east of 95 that you see in the lower right-hand corner, and also a new force main that replaces an existing force main along Chicopee Road all the way back to just before Brockland Street. So that in a nutshell, and then again, I think I mentioned we're going to be abandoning 2 lift stations as a result of this project and building a new, larger station, more of a regional type station down in the east of 95. So that's in a nutshell the project. Again, just to refresh your memories. This is a real quick snapshot of where we are. One thing that we ended up doing as we got started on this, we recognized that the schedule was a little more extended than we wanted for Berry Global. They've got increasing capacities over there, increasing sewer needs over there, and a couple years ago when the weather was wet and things like that, it really put a strain on Chicopee Pump Station. So we want to go ahead and move the force main that's going to basically help Berry Global, want to go ahead and move that forward. So we're calling that phase 1. It's really of a back-to-back phases. We're basically accelerating a piece of the project, if you will, that has to do with Berry Global. So that's phase 1. That design for the force main along Chicopee Road is about 75% complete in terms of design plans and specifications. And we're getting ready to start submitting our permit applications to the state for approvals, and then early next year we'll look to go out for bid. And then hopefully complete that portion of the project by the next summer. So that'll essentially give them more capacity than they currently have and alleviate that issue, which is, I think, will be very helpful as we head into next fall when we may get wet again. There are a few easements on that as well, and we'll be talking with property owners in the near future about that. Looks like the majority of them are temporary, not permanent, so we'll see. Phase 2, of course, that's the rest of the project. That's the big portion of the project, and that is engineering surveys are currently ongoing right now. I've got a graphic here on the right side. Everything you see in red, if you can see that, is essentially basically has been surveyed. There's a portion down along Mingo around I-95 that has not been surveyed. We're waiting on some wetland delineations to make sure we get that picked up. But that'll be completed in the near future. And so our surveys are about 75–80% done, I would say. And the schedule on that is looking longer term, of course. That'll end up being completed in late 2024, construction-wise. Design will be completed probably towards the end of the summer, early fall, and that includes getting all your easements and your permits and things like that associated with this. So a lot of activity on this one. Moving into next year, and then construction will start happening, on the big portion of the project probably this time next year. So total project cost, just to remind you of that, is $6.36 million. And again, I think last time when I was with you, we did not have the funding locked in. It was coming, but now we have the funding locked in. And so EDA supplied or provided a just over $3 million grant, and USDA came through with just over $1 million, or I think about $1 million grant and about a $2 million loan. So all total, about a 67% grant, 33% loan. So it's a really good mix on this project in terms of grant dollars. So it's really fortunate town's really fortunate to be able to get those dollars in hand. So that's a quick wrap on where that is, and I'll certainly be happy to answer any questions.
Glenn, I just want to know on the easements that you've got to go after, is there any reason where any landowner would oppose an easement for this? I mean, would it not help their property and anything they would ever do with it?
Absolutely, it would. This project is going to basically open up service to a lot of land in the southern portion of the town. So yes, they have to provide easements, or hopefully we'll provide easements, but it will basically help their property get future sewer. So,
And when you get an easement from somebody, that doesn't take really a big portion of their property, right?
no, sir. For lines like this, the force mains generally are 20-foot wide easements, and gravity main, we may want to go a little wider, 30-foot wide easement. But again, the gravity is mostly going to be in the woods, wetland, and the force main, what we're trying to do is hug I-95 with it, so it would be basically contained within any setback in the future. So the idea is to have minimal impact on the property. So it should be, I mean, nobody really wants easements, but it will be a help to the town certainly, and it'll be a help to their property in the end.
Brian, years ago, the old town manager here told me that we had a truck stop down 95 that was interested in getting sewer from us, and they said that we were not able to cross the swamp with sewer. It was the reason that I was given. Do you see any, once we do this, after this done, is there any future capability of the town crossing over Mingo Swamp to offer the areas closer in our ETJ towards Dunn? Is that a possibility once this phase 2 is completed?
Anything's possible. I will say this: the design of the pump station that we put in and the gravity will be deep enough to get you there. But I say anything's possible because to get across the swamp is going to be costly. There's no doubt about that. But it can happen. Sewer lines have been laid in swamps before, but of course it's an environmental permitting sequence that has to be done, but it's certainly a lot more challenging than going the other direction with sewer. I'll just say that.
And with this, if this project goes through with this, we will do away with the dinosaur that's out off Chicopee Road that's costing us
Yes, sir.
thousands.
Yes.
Yes, sir. That'll be gone.
Yes.
Yeah, that
As well
Okay,
as
so
the
that's
King.
one of them.
As well as King Circle pump station.
Okay, both of those then will be gone if this works.
yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be gravity.
I'm surprised at the figures that it's costing us right now to operate with those pumps that we're having to rent. But
Well, we're talking about that later.
You mentioned this. I'm gonna bring it up again. We're gonna make sure you get those regionalization plans that we've seen. But the only reason I say that is if you said a regionalized pump station is what you're putting in on the other side over there. Is there any opportunity, if you look at those plans, if the county is working towards that, to go to the county or other funding sources to get them to help us pay part of that money that wasn't grant funds? That's
Yeah.
If we're looking at this for the future and saying, hey, we're fixing to put in the pump station,
Right.
that's why I would love you to look at those plans and see if we bring that line through our pump station, if it's big enough, will they help us pay for it? I mean, realistically.
Right, yeah, and when I said regional, I was thinking in terms of regional for the town proper. So I
Okay,
wasn't really
okay.
thinking big
Okay.
regional, so sorry about that. But
That's all right.
yeah, I don't know that there's really, this is actually going to be pumping back to y'all's plant. So if that regional plan, if part of that plan that you were talking about were to, consider the option of going back into Benson's plant, like Four Oaks right now already goes to y'all's plant.
We already
for-
take some of the counties. And
Right.
So,
So there's options there. There is future growth built into this pump station.
okay.
So there may be something there, but really, this is really just to serve the town.
Right.
All
Okay.
right. Well, that's all we've got. We certainly appreciate it, and we'll keep you posted.
Thank you. for answering
Thank
all
y'all.
the questions.
Thank you.
All right.
Individuals wishing to address the board are asked to provide their name and address for the record. Come forward. Anybody that wants to speak? Anybody that wants to speak to the board tonight? We're going into public hearing.
Okay, the first public hearing that we have is a voluntary annexation by 550 Cash. This is a non-contiguous annexation. It's for Weston Hills subdivision. It's approximately 26 acres located near the intersection of North Honeycutt Road and Woodman Road. They have done a memo of understanding that the town of Benson will not be responsible for the extension of water and sewer utilities to the property. They will take care of that. We had a notice of the public hearing was advertised on October 26th in the local paper, the News and Review, and on the town's website. And in your board packets, everybody will have a certificate of sufficiency. I have investigated, they have met all the needs and the standards for this annexation. And also included in your packet are the findings that must be met to adopt the ordinance to extend the corporate limits, and there's 4. The first one is the area meets all the standards for non-contiguous areas of annexation. It does. The petition has signatures of all the owners. The petition is valid, and the public health, safety, and welfare of all residents of the town and the proposed area for annexation will benefit from annexing the area. So if you don't have any questions, I would say open the public hearing. Does anybody have any questions?
We talked about this for a few minutes at our last meeting, and I saw in emails. I'm just confirming that we determined it was the developer's choice on which power company they went with. Is that correct?
Yes, customer choice, and they choose Benson.
But it's in the packet
I
today.
got a question.
Mhm.
Houses that are being built on Woodman Road, they're not part of this subdivision?
Mm-mm. No, they're separate.
Okay.
I'll open the public hearing on voluntary annexation by 550 Cash LLC. Anyone that wants to come and speak in favor, come forward. Your name and address.
Yep, Shandy Hill, 3334 NC Highway 42 East, Clayton. I'm the owner of the parcel. Just thought I'd come tonight, brought my engineer along with me. If you guys have any questions that we can answer. Sure appreciate working with all you folks and getting this all pulled together. I think we covered all our bases, but wanted to answer any questions if you had them. Thank you.
Anyone else wants to come and speak in favor?
I don't know, but it's cold in here. Thank you.
No one else coming forward? Anyone that wants to come forward and speak against? Anyone wants to come and speak against? Well, nobody's coming. I close the public hearing. I ask the board, what's your wishes?
I make a motion, we approve.
Any other discussions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Second one,
Okay, the second one we have is another voluntary non-contiguous annexation. This is by Crosspoint Logistics. The description is 2 parcels totaling 91.702 acres. It's the project known as Crosspoint Logistics Center located at 230 Morgan Road in Benson. The same thing, the public hearing was advertised on October 26th in the News and Review and on the town's website. Also, per the plans and the MOU attached, the developer will be responsible for cost of utility transmission line extension. Also, you'll have the certificate of sufficiency that they've met all their requirements, and then it's the same to approve the ordinance. Anybody have any questions? And let me pass this around. I'm gonna give that to y'all. Y'all can pass it around. It was like 31 pages, so I did not want to.
So
print 6 copies.
what that is, when you have a new non-contiguous annexation, or any annexation, if the petitioner wishes to bring in any vested development rights with their annexation, if they've, like, for instance, in this case, they've been granted certain development approvals, some of them by the town itself, others by the county with stormwater. If they want to bring those development approvals along with them into the new, bring that approval in with the annexed property. So in other words, they don't have to start over again with reapproval for their development. They can bring those in if they wish, as long as the board approves that. But they have to declare those when they make the annexation. This project's already, well, as far as the development approvals is moving, is kind of moved far along, and they do have certain development approvals that they've attached. It's a lot. They essentially, and I discussed this with their attorney, and this is what I suggested they do, and they agreed to. They just attached all of the different development approvals that they've been already granted that they wish to bring in. There's no issue with any of those that either Aaron or myself or anybody on our end have. So I told Angie there's probably no need to fill up what is already a pretty sizable portion of your agenda packet here with those already previously approved development approvals, but that's what she's handing out. And there's a list also, Commissioner Stack has it. In your packet, you've got a list of all of those different attachments, all those different development approvals they're bringing in with the annexation.
any other questions? I'll open the public hearing on voluntary annexation by Crosspoint Logistics Center. Anyone in favor, come forward. Your name? Hey, Mike.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Mike Massardo. I'm one of the principals at Edgewater Ventures. We're the developer and the owner of the 90-acre site that we've affectionately dubbed Crosspoint Logistics Center. And you know, listening to that sewer conversation actually really hits home for us, because I'd say we do this, we build large industrial facilities across the entire Southeast, but we mostly focus on the Carolinas. And what you guys are discussing is not an issue unique to you guys. It's something that every town outside of large metropolitan areas are dealing with. And so I just wanted to let you guys know that as a private developer, we're constantly the first question we always ask is, where's the sewer? And is there capacity? And that is the biggest path to growth, at least in our mind, for a town right outside of a large city like Raleigh, Durham, Charlotte, Greensboro, you name it. it's happening everywhere across the state. So I figured I'd just quickly start off with giving you guys a quick construction update, because we've been moving about 300,000 cubic yards of dirt for about 3 months out there, and we're finally pouring our concrete slab, which is going to be about the size of 8 football fields. And that's just the first phase. That's the first building. That's about 500,000 square feet. We've made really good timing, had a lot of good weather, and I figured I'd share with you guys some of the activity that we're seeing from a tenant perspective. Just give you some highlights to give you some perspective on what's truly going on out in our world, and what a facility like this can do to benefit the town. As of last week, we've had, and we don't even have walls up yet, and we've had 6 inquiries, none of them less than 250,000 square feet, and the largest one up to 1.5 million feet. And these are all a range of manufacturing and distribution users. So if you kind of internalize that and think about what that can do from a tax revenue perspective, from a job perspective, it can be pretty substantial. And as we continue out through and finalize construction, we expect that those numbers to pick up substantially, and hopefully at some point here in the near future, we'll be able to sign a lease with a company that Benson would be proud to call one of their own. But I said this to Ike the other day, Benson, for us, out of all the municipalities we've worked with, has been by far the easiest, and we really, really sincerely appreciate everything that you guys have done, and we look forward to continuing the relationship with you all. So I'm happy to answer any questions or give any more updates about the project if you guys have anything for me.
I would just like to say thank you for being willing to voluntarily annex into Benson, because your business, the other business, you don't have to do that, but now you're a part of Benson, and makes a difference, makes a big difference, it sure does. Thank you.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. We're happy to be a part of the community, and you know, we're not just here to be one and done. We'll hopefully be part of your town for decades to come. So we appreciate
Mike,
it.
we appreciate what y'all have done in getting this far, and you know, maybe some things are in the near future. So we thank you for what you and everybody has done.
It's our pleasure. If you ever need anything, you know where to find me.
Okay. I now will open the public hearing. Oh, I've already opened the public hearing. Anyone else that wants to come forward and speak, come forward. Anyone that wants to come and speak against, come forward. While no one is coming forward, I close the public hearing on voluntary annexation of Cross Point Logistics Center. What's the board's wish?
I make a motion that we approve.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Before we move on, I just want to thank Angie for all the work she did on this too. I want to single her out. She did a lot of work on both these annexation petitions. We haven't done any of these in quite a while, I think. This is my first. I I didn't wanna
Double
point it out
whammy.
like that, but I wanna say.
I think it's the first one we've ever done.
We've done some very small ones,
Yeah,
but
we
these are
have.
definitely the most major, and Angie did a great job.
She learned a lot, and I think she'll go teach us a lot. We're now under old business, update on TXT 2022-02, Aaron Joseph.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. At our last meeting in October, I brought forth a petition to amend the Unified Development Code, the nonconformities section, specifically Section 4B, with a proposed amendment to reduce the number of days that a nonconforming use is allowed to continue. Currently, it's at 180 days. The proposed text reduces it to 90 days and also takes out the language as evidenced by the disconnection of electric services. During that time, the board wanted more information about how many non-conforming uses that we have in town, specifically residential properties that are on commercially zoned lots. And so upon my investigation, I found that there were 82 properties in town, well, in town and the ETJ, that had residential uses, single-family homes. Some were, and I eliminated that list, some had multifamily units on it as well, such as apartment complexes, but those aren't nonconformities. They're usually allowed in the B2 district or in another residential district with a special use permit. So specifically really looking at single-family homes on commercially zoned properties. And so within that number, 68 of them were in the corporate limits of town. I also took a look at commercial uses on residential properties. In town, there were 18 properties. And most notable of that number, the predominant non-conforming uses were places of worship, churches. Nearly all of our churches in town are on lots that are zone R6, and our development code only allows places of worship in the R11 district or the RA or R30 district or the B3 district with a special use permit, and they are predominantly on R6, including some of our funeral homes as well. And so just peeling back that information, and you have a table of those properties in your packet, it revealed a lot of questions, namely, these properties, are they vacant? And so I did a search with utilities to determine which accounts have active status on them that currently have someone residing in them. And even further in that investigation, sometimes the property may be vacant, but the property owner continues to pay the electric service. And so we would never know if that property is actually vacant or not, or being in use, and that use could continue, that single family use could continue if that electric service has not been disconnected. So you have those cases. You also have issues where we even have properties that had maybe 2 or 3 that were residential uses on industrial zone lots. They would be a non-conforming use as well as a substandard lot because it does not meet the current standards for an a light industrial site. And so in my recommendation, I even will back it up and say that, yes, we do want to eliminate nonconformities, but we don't necessarily want to create a hardship for folks. And so I think that this has revealed to me, even in my further investigation, that maybe we not change the language in the ordinance until we thoroughly look at all of these properties and really get a really good assessment of how many properties are actually sitting vacant, which properties maybe, you know, if they would even reach out to them for rezoning. As we look at through our current code and we're updating this code and we're having an overhaul of it, do we want to continue to not allow churches in R6 designated zoning districts? And so I think it revealed to me a lot more questions than answers. You know, it's not as simple as it may sound. And so I would honestly recommend that we hold off on changing this until we have a full picture of what actually is on the ground. We have some deficiencies even with our utilities when a property owner or a tenant moves into a residential unit. That nonconformity may have expired and it's not known to the utilities. There's nothing prompting, especially for residential properties on commercially zoned properties, there's nothing prompting them to contact planning to say, hey, someone is trying to move back into this property. All they know is that it's always been residential. Zoning doesn't play a factor in that. So there are some blind spots there, and it was really an onion being peeled back, and that's why I recommend before we do anything, let's really just look at this. We're really talking about moving it from half the time that nonconformity can continue, from 180 days to 90 days. But I think it would be very prudent of us to make sure that we are thoroughly looking at our nonconformities and truly what do we want to phase out, what do we want with these nonconforming uses and standards, and then apply it from there instead of this one-off text amendment.
Well, this is on the table, so is the board's wishes to leave it there?
I just want to say, because I think I asked you to dig a little deeper, and you sent me a map the other day, and obviously sent this with the path. Thank you for taking the time to go deeper.
Most welcome. Thank you. Thank you for the recommendation.
I would make the motion. I think I made the motion to table it. I make the motion at this point that we do not change the text amendment to give her more time to keep digging.
Yes.
And bring a more educated suggestion to the board. That's my motion.
We'll call up the old motion and fit it with the new motion and put that new motion in the records and put it back on the table. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Angie, you're running the show tonight.
This is it for me. Okay, at the end of September, the town stands at 22.62% in revenues and 28.71% in expenses. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions, board members? I'll entertain a motion to approve it.
I make a motion that we approve it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Thank y'all.
Permitting software contract. Aaron Joseph.
All right. Thank you.
Who wrote that contract? Do you know?
Not me.
Cloud print permits.
28 pages for a software contract.
Like half of those pages are definitions.
They are.
You're going to take advantage of the one time you get to say that, right?
Okay, do your thing.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So as we voted at our last meeting to terminate the contract with the Johnson County Buildings Inspections Department, we are preparing. We have a meeting with the head of building inspections tomorrow to kickstart that transition to bringing permitting and inspections back into the town of Benson. And so I've had several demos with this particular company, this permitting software company, Cloud Permit. Really thought they were very thorough in what they offer. It's a one program I found with other demos and other companies that I have listened to that you have to add on. This one is one price, and when I say add on, it's maybe just for one price for permitting and inspections. If you want to add on a code enforcement module, it's another price for that. For planning, it's another price for that. This is a full package, internet-based software that will allow us to more efficiently and streamline our communications with the public and internally with plan review. And so this evening, I'm asking that you all would consider approving this contract with Cloud Permit. The total annual cost would be $7,000. There would be an initial startup fee of $3,000, and that would allow us to integrate the software and the data into the new system. But after that, it would be $7,000 a year, 3-year contract. There is some language in there about if we would like to terminate, we could in 1 year.
Now, what's the $7,000 cover? You mentioned 3 things.
Yeah, so it would cover planning. So all of our land use designations, rezonings, text amendments, conditional, we could run it through this system as well. They even provide a QR code that someone from the public could utilize that QR code and pull up information about what that project, that development, or land use change entails. It also would cover all of our permit plan review, so customers, applicants could submit online. They could check the status of their permits online. They could pay online. This system works very well with our current Paymentus system. It integrates very well into it, so they would be able to utilize that as well. I really like that there are checkpoints along the way. So let's say there's an inspection and the inspector enters notes and it needs a re-inspection and there's a fee associated with it. They could not move forward with requesting the next inspection until that fee has been paid. It direct communication with the applicants, and so it really streamlines it. GIS integration, also code enforcement. So right now we don't have, with our current permitting software, a code enforcement arm on that tracker. We really track it on an Excel spreadsheet. This will also allow us to track code enforcement violations, send out letters, generate reports. All of our needs could be utilized in this one software.
So for $7,000, you get all of that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We could do plan review with it. It could be sent to different departments or review designated people. They could review plans and put their comments. The customer could see those comments online. So it really reduce our time and bring us up to where we think we're going to be as far as permitting and land use and growth. It'll really help us to do our job more efficiently, serve the community more efficiently, get away from a lot of the paper submittals that we have for permits, and really have an online presence with our community.
What's the turnaround time when somebody goes online, submits an application to having a permit being issued?
Today, or with
if
this?
You went to this.
Well,
I
would.
deal with a lot of municipalities, cities, they got different versions, and one city I could put it in at 3 o'clock. Tomorrow morning I got my permit, I just gotta pay for it.
Mm-hmm. It really just.
I gotta wait 2 to 3 days.
It depends on what type of permit it is. If it's something that's very
Pretty simple.
yeah, pretty simple. Even today, you know, we're turning around permits at single-family homes, 1 to 2 days, basic, you know, permits. Now, if it's something commercial that requires a lot of review, you know, that could be up to a week or so.
Do you know any other cities, towns, or anything that's using this?
And they are trying to expand into North Carolina, so there's only one other town in North Carolina that currently uses it. They are all across the United States, and so, but they would like to expand their footprint in North Carolina,
They
and I
started
believe it's in
overseas, didn't they?
Aberdeen is where they have someone. Mm-hmm.
Didn't they start overseas? Isn't it a foreign company?
I don't believe they're a foreign company. The folks that I speak with on a regular basis are in Florida, but their current headquarters is in Reston, Virginia.
And currently, right now, we cannot do anything online or anything like that.
No, we have iWork, and we've had that since 2018. We actually when I started in 2015, we didn't have any permitting software, and we had that was one of my first duties, is to get some type of permitting software that did not have any of this. It was an SQL type of system that's very basic Microsoft. It did not have that communication. It could not, you know, send communication with the public and things like that. iWork was a slight step above that, but it doesn't have all of this functionality that the cloud permit has.
Yeah, I mean, the majority of cities and towns I deal with, you can do it all on the internet. To give you an example, and I'm not going to name the town, but it's about 2 hours away from here. I pulled their permit application off their website, and there was no association, where you could send it back to. So I called them, spoke to the planning department person, and I asked her, I said, can I email this to you? You know, application. She said, no, you can put it in the mail. And I'm like, I can't email it? She said, no, you can put it in the mail. I'm like, do y'all even take credit cards? She said, no. I'm like, so.
We're a little more advanced than that. You can scan in a permit. That's our digital.
And we take credit cards.
And we take credit card online payments.
So this new program would replace the iWorks
Yes.
system. Are we currently paying an annual fee for iWorks?
Yes, $900.
Okay, so but that would go away.
Yes.
All right.
And and what we have today with iWork is just permits. It's not planning. It's not code enforcement. That would be an additional cost with them, which they've tried to sell, you know, to us. But
Any other questions?
No, I got another question. Because I know you said something about residents will be able to scan a QR code. Will residents be able to search by address of issued permits and stuff like that?
Yes, they will be able to go online and search. I don't know all the specifics. How I'm sure it's address, permit number, all of that is built into it. That they would know how to search for their permit and.
No, I'm talking about searching for other people.
Oh, other
'Cause
people's.
I can go on Goldsboro.
Mm-hmm.
I can search an address to tell you what permits has been pulled there, everything.
Okay. It may be. I'm not sure. I'll have to. I'll ask Matt about that.
So like if your next door neighbor's got some stuff
Mhm.
going on, like you can type in and
If
see
you
if they
can
have
see
permits.
what they have. Now, you may be able to see that they have a permit. You may not
Nosy
be able to see all the information, all the notes, all the inspection notes and things like that.
You what it's for,
Okay,
what
I'm
kind
not
of
sure.
permit it is and everything.
Yeah, it probably does, but I don't know exactly how all of that works. If you're looking, if you can look at other people's permits and details on their permits and things like that, but you probably can. Most of them do. You can do that, but.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion from.
I make a motion that we do that, approve.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Consider approval of one called Kim.
So this is in regards to the pumps that Mr. Chandler mentioned earlier in the meeting. We do currently have 2 pumps that are sitting at the Chicopee pump station. It's essentially running that pump station. We started renting those in February of 2021. I think, honestly, staff did not think we were going to have them on site for as long as we have. They are running us $6,100 a month to run the 2. I've talked with the vendor that we're renting the pumps from. They are willing to sell us those pumps at 50% of their cost, which is $56,484. We know already if we keep renting them that we're going to expend another $48,888 from now until the end of the year. So I think just fiduciarily, it's better for us to go ahead and purchase them outright. These pumps, once the Chicopee pump station is abandoned, we will be able to reuse them. We can put them in our stock. We can use them at other pump stations. If they go down, we can use it at the plant. There's multiple places we could benefit from having these pumps in our warehouse in stock. So staff is recommending that we go ahead and purchase those pumps outright at $56,484.
What, why do we have 2 there?
Do you know? There, because of the size.
From the effects of Barry pushing into the same force main,
Yeah.
we have to have that much volume going through to fight for capacity.
Well, you know, their sewer usage this year has been way down in the 30% range. And on top of that, they've done some things to reduce the amount of water they're buying. They're doing some aeration and so forth. So I just wonder if we have 2 pumps because that was necessary to keep those ponds clean.
As far as Anthony's told me is they're still using both pumps consistently.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
do they need to is what I'm asking.
Yeah.
If I were you, I would ask Barrett Global what they're doing, what they're gonna do, because they've told me that they'll be back up to capacity starting next year. I don't know.
Right. But the reality is I don't think we can not have the pumps there in order for that pump station to continue to work. And we know we're going to have to run that station for another 18 to 24 months.
The lease payment that we're currently paying, was that approved in the budget? Was that included in our budget? So realistically, we're only looking at a $6,000 increase to own.
Right.
I make a motion we approve.
All in favor, say aye.
Well, let me ask a question. Is that both?
That's
Is
for
that
both.
fifty-
Yes,
for
ma'am.
both?
That is for both.
All in favor, say aye.
And,
Opposed, no.
and let me say, and it's in here, but it's not just the pumps, it's the hoses, it's everything that comes with it. That everything in that picture you see is what you're getting. So, thank you.
Consider approval of one call task order.
This is a task order with one of our own call contractors, Ramey Kemp. They have been working on helping us apply for the BRIC grant, which is through FEMA. This grant specifically is taking that culvert that was popped up out of the ground during Hurricane Matthew. It's still sitting out, but it's taking that area and putting it into open stream. So it's where the old Public Works building currently sits. It's taking everything out of that yard and turning it into an open stream. It's going to flow underneath Market and out underneath Johnson Street and into that stream. So they are working on, we're reapplying for the BRIC grant application. So they're the ones that have been managing that grant process. So we applied for it last year. We were within the number that was assured to get approved, but then we didn't get approved. We got beat out essentially. They've given us a list of things we needed to go back and redo in the grant application, and so that's what this is essentially paying for, is for them to go back and readdress the issues that we talked with FEMA about and resubmit for us.
Or is it 29,000?
It's 29. Mm-hmm.
And wasn't FEMA gonna give us some money to turn it back into an open street?
No, the FEMA will only give us money to put it back the way it was. So they've given us like $40,000 essentially to tear the building down if we wanted to, but they will not, as far as FEMA with Hurricane Matthew, will not allow us to make it open street. They will not give us money to better it. They will give us money to put it back the way it was. This is a different set of FEMA, and this is actually to put it where it needs to be. The grant that we're going for is $1.3 million.
Any other questions?
I'll just say, if you're gonna approve this, just in your motion, it's sort of intended to a statutory requirement, but we have these on-call contracts with these engineers, and so we kind of, for smaller projects, we can utilize those on-call contracts, which were bid. Anything higher end, we would obviously go out for an RFP. But on these smaller ones, we can avoid doing that, but the board needs to specifically designate this project as exempt. So in your motion, if you want to approve this, make a motion to approve what's presented and specifically exempt this project from the RFP requirement, since this is a relatively small contract.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve and exempt from the RFP contract.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. On that, that company, he's promised us for 2 years that he was gonna give us, correct the transportation study and send it back to us, and hadn't done that. We
Okay.
need to get him to do it, because the county is doing a transportation study now, and they need ours if we want to participate.
Okay, I'll talk to him tomorrow.
Consider approval of maintenance software on wastewater treatment.
So,
Brian Mays and Brian Levitt.
so Brian Levitt, for anybody, this is Brian. He is our wastewater treatment plant superintendent, and this is Ryan. He's one of our maintenance workers out there. And they have been really focusing on safety and equipment out at the plant. They have really done a lot of work out there. I encourage y'all, if y'all have never been to the plant and seen exactly what they do, they will give you a tour. It's really just, it's an amazing thing to see it all kind of come in and where it goes and what it ends out at. But they're going to talk to you guys about a maintenance software that they need or would like to have.
Thank you, Kim. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and board members. I just wanted to take a minute. I don't want to steal any of Ryan's thunder, but when we hired him 2 years ago, this was one of our big objectives in the plan of how to utilize Ryan's experience, both in the military and the civilian sector. He has a mind for maintenance and how to track everything. And what we're trying to do, we've talked most of the evening about the investment we want to make in the town. And this is about protecting that investment, having a rigorous maintenance plan that we want to pilot. It says on the agenda for the WWTP, but we want to pilot it at the wastewater plant and then eventually roll it out to be utilized in other areas of the town. But I'll go ahead and let Ryan speak.
Good evening, commissioners, Mr. Mayor. Basically what Ryan said is the gist of it. We're going to get right into it, keep it short and sweet. This is just an overview, a real quick overview from where we came from and where we're going to, from the past to the future, okay? In the past, you can see right here, we've been unable to account for equipment inventory properly, limited preventative maintenance scheduling, compliance capabilities. We have no work order system out there in the past. We've been limited on reports, and we've been unable to accurately budget due to all this, okay? Now, the current plant conditions, this has been a key thing for Brian and a few other members that have been out there before I got there. They've worked really hard to get it as close as we can to a preventative maintenance state. We've invested a lot of money already just in the equipment out there. So we currently do not have a system out there to protect our investments. We do not have a maintenance program out there, period. It's kind of just been so corrective based. If it's broke, fix it. And that's the way it's been. We're getting it to a state to where we're moving away from that, and that needs to happen. That's critical. We have a very outdated work order system right now with pen and paper. And that gives us no access to key trends and tendencies that are going on with our equipment and how the plant's actually operating. As the Wooten Company went over earlier, we've got a lot of money coming in the future to our plant. Without having any type of program in place to protect it, that's a lot of money to be thrown down the drain. With that, that's where e-maintenance comes in play. I don't know why we're missing some right there in the surplus. However, I'm not sure. Yeah, it's not. Okay. Yeah. Anyways, the whole theme right here is investments. Number one, we need to protect our investments, and that's going to be done through this proper maintenance program. Number two, this is going to help us increase not only the health and longevity of everything, but it's also going to keep us away from that reactive maintenance state and permanently keep us in a preventative maintenance state. Now, that's going to help ensure compliance with budgeting as well, and also our work performance. Right now, we can't track those variables. We don't really have the capabilities of doing that. The other thing this is going to allow us to do is it's going to give us an educated investment decisions going into the future about what we need to do. So, for example, what we was bringing up a while ago, Kim was bringing up about the 2 pumps at Chicopee. This system could help give us a lot more insight on specifically what you asked. Do we need to be running both pumps? Can we cut it down to one? Those type of answers. That's what the system will give us access to. And planning for the future with e-maintenance specifically, it's already going to be able to tie into our current platforms that we have, such as SCADA and mission controls. So our lift station runs off of SCADA. We're potentially going to move over to mission controls. It's not going to matter. It's going to tie into both of them. The capability of using additional monitoring technologies with a future plant upgrade is going to be key. This system will be able to roll into those technologies. We'll be able to start tracking it as soon as we take over the plant. It's going to streamline our workflow, inventory process, and we currently don't really have a really good inventory process out there at all. Of course, it's going to help us with budgeting and planning. It's also going to have the ability to tie in with future financial software. That's going to be a big key too, because we're going to be able to really, go down and drill down and itemize everything. Right now, it's just kind of an overview of what we're spending. We don't know exactly what we're spending it on and where we're spending it necessarily. The biggest thing about this software is it's going to give us real-time access to very key data. That's going to be very important going forward to be able to protect our investments. If you have any questions or comments about the software, I'll be more than glad to answer them.
So it looks like it's $7,000 onboarding fee, and then the 8640, 1440, and 480. That's the recurring annual charge for you to have the mobility user and everything. That you
Correct. So we will have access to QR codes and stuff like that. So what I mean by real-time access to data, if there's a work order put in place, me or one of the other employees at the plant goes up, scans the QR code. We start whatever the work order is on that process. Brian, Chris, the backup ORC of the plant, they'll have real-time access to what we're doing, what the progress is, any parts that need to be ordered. The capabilities are like really endless. It'll actually give us access to fleet management possibilities in the future as the town grows. Currently, we don't really have a fleet management in-house. It's all been contracted out from my understanding. So the capabilities are also there for that.
I see under quantity it's got 6. So is that the 6 users at the plant? As we add more employees, this will continue to increase in cost as we add more users? Is that the way this works?
It's $120 per month per user.
Okay.
Now, I say that though, it seems like it's going to be a steep cost. However, not every employee of the town will have to be a licensed user. So that's going to help cut down the cost. So the licensed users are mainly for our financial personnel and our supervisors and managers. Everything other than that will probably be, I want to say it was like $280 for the Fluke Mobile Access for the average tech.
Okay.
So the initial cost is
$17,560, yes, sir.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I make the motion we approve.
Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Thank you.
Okay, Miss Town Manager.
We had one more that was added. Does he have the new, for the playground? From Matt.
I was gonna let him go after closed session. Pull it up, Matt. Sorry, partner.
He already got put at the end, didn't he? Made a mistake.
Best for the last. All right, so I've been getting a lot of questions over the last several board meetings about playgrounds, and this discussion began when we started, we had the budget meeting in the summertime or springtime. The Grove Playground is in need of replacement. You all saw the pictures. It is, to give you an idea how old it is, it's one of the first things that I did when I got here, the first couple of years I was here, so it's well over 20 years old. It's probably 22, 23 years old. It's getting to be a dangerous area, safety issue. So I went back and started talking to my board, and we started discussing the options for a playground. It's a replacement at the Grove. And I started with $60,000 playgrounds, and we're like, well, we can possibly, you guys were asking me, we can possibly, this is going to be in the center of town, we can possibly get something more. So I went back to my board again, and they suggested that, or Commissioner Chandler suggested I bring back some options, or some different options, some of varying prices, kind of explain what each one is and what you get for your buck and whatnot. So the Singing Grove Playground replacement is what we're going to talk about. Now, playground features. Playgrounds come in infinite possibilities. You can have, like cars, you pick the options that you want on your car and you pay for that. Now, the more options you have, the bigger the playground, the bigger the car, the more it's going to cost. Or if you select some options that you like, the playground company will design or can find a design of what you want to see on this playground. A lot of your features are climbing, sliding, balancing, hanging. There's some spinning features. There's a bunch of different things that you can have on a playground. It's not just, you know, there's not just one design. There's literally thousands, millions of designs. And the playground costs are widely varied. I mean, you need to decide on the desired price or what you want to spend on the playground. What I'm going to do is show you several playgrounds today, several different levels of playgrounds, and then basically tell me which ones you like. And it doesn't have, you don't have to select one of these playgrounds, but you'll select the features that you like, and you can either select one, or you can have me go back and find another one that you do like. So funding, in the budget, there's $100,000 for Grove improvements, but that's not just for playgrounds. One thing I want to do is replace the ramp on the back of the stage with Forever Deck. That would be somewhere between $20,000 and $30,000. So I was kind of focusing on that $60,000 range for a playground. I had lunch a couple times with the open space guys from Johnson County. We were awarded an open space grant in 2020. That was $30,351. They're going to have another grant cycle in 2022. It'll come out in December. They'll make a decision like February, March. I talked to them. They said it's going to be a similar amount that will be available to us. So we're looking, you know, they said there's probably between 60, 80 grand available. We're in the South Johnston system. We would have to share that money with Four Oaks and Meadow if they apply. If they don't apply, we apply for more. So, I mean, and nothing's guaranteed, but I've never applied for this grant and not gotten it. So they want to give the money out. And they said it will match, it could go towards a playground. It doesn't have to be its own project. The grant normally comes with a 5% match that we didn't have to pay last time because COVID kind of made everything crappy. But we're already going to have that 5% match in with our funds that we put in. There's possible donations, naming rights you could sell off, just like you did with ball fields. Playgrounds can be named as easily as ball fields can be named. So if somebody wants to give money, they can get their name on a playground, but you would decide what that cost is. That's not my decision. So what I got here, these are playgrounds of varying prices. So the first set are going to be $50,000, $60,000, and I got an asterisk on one of these. This is a Bars Recreation. These guys just put in one of our playgrounds. This playground here is $57,839. It is 45 feet by 43 feet. If you want to compare that, the playground surfaces that we have at the Grove currently is 37 feet by 39 feet. That's the playground play area. So this would be a little bit bigger. This is their $60,000 option. This is the backside view of it. And this is Cunningham Recreation. This is their $60,000 option. This is $62,479. This playground was quoted in September. The reason that has an asterisk on it is because that was with a $19,000 reduction in their they had a promotion. That promotion's not on anymore, so this playground now would be about $80,000. But that being said, playgrounds are like cars. Playground dealers are like car dealers. You can haggle the price. You can sell them what you want to pay. You can say, well, I really want that playground for $65,000, and they could possibly do it. But there's also always a sale going on. There's always some kind of match going on. There's always some kind of grant going on. So I mean, you could find that playground or something similar for that amount of money. This is Carolina Parks and Play. This is their $60,000 option. It's got a lot of kind of wavy lines. A lot of their stuff I notice has this. Now I'm going to say that all these playgrounds include surfacing, borders, and installation. All right, even though it doesn't show it here, all that's included in this price. This is turnkey, so we wouldn't have to do anything except prep the land. Basically, if we had to build it up or cut it down a little bit. The next is $100,000 bones or clams, whatever you want to call them. This is bars, $118,000. It's 53 by 37. You can tell it's a lot taller. It's got a lot more things. It's got the sliding features, climbing features. All of them have all those features. All of them going to have those certain features. Now, if you don't like that one slide, you can say, we don't want that one that tall. Can you put something else there, make it a little shorter? And they'll find a design that's similar. But this is their. Hang on, we're not. Don't get ahead of me, man. Jeez, man, steal the thunder. This is the backside of that same playground. Now, not all of these gave me alternate views. This is Carolina Parks and Play. This is their $100,000 option. Again, the surfacing doesn't show, but it is included. And this is Cunningham Recreation. This is their $100,000. Now, you'll notice there are swings, Jerry, in here, but those swings are not included in the price. I asked them to quote swings separately because our swings right now are not dangerous. We did have one that we have to replace, but the swings are not dangerous. I didn't know if that was something that you wanted to add in the playground or not, but we're going to talk about swings here in a second. This is the $150,000 range. Now, of course, again, more money, more options, more bells and whistles. This is Bars Recreation, 140. It's 63 by 52. It's substantially bigger to the space we have now. We can put we can put any size playground out there we want, but that's not the focus of the Grove. The focus of the Grove is the stage and the sing, and this is kind of in the bag. This is the alternate view, the backside view of it. Swing, spinning, any feature you want is pretty much on here. This is Cunningham's view. Again, there's your swings right there in the back. That is not included in that $150,000 price. That's got all the features that we're looking for: climbing, sliding, swinging. Yes.
The size of it compared to what we have, you're talking about the size of the slides and everything.
Yes.
You're not even talking about where the swings are now anyway.
No.
Okay.
This is when I said 37 by 39, that is the play area of the playground. That playground at the Grove is 3 times that size as far as length goes. The width is pretty much the same. This is Carolina Parks and Play. It's 66 by 45. It's 152,528. That's got a lot of cables and different things. It's a kind of a more progressive, I guess, futuristic playground. Now, the swings, okay? I asked them to price swings separately because our swings are not in bad shape. They're not dangerous. But if you want to get an idea of what swings cost, this is a 3-base straight tube. That's about $21,000. Surfacing borders, everything's included. Now, this is a 3-bay arch tube. I was quoted by one of our companies for $13,035. That is more along the lines of what I think is what we need. If you notice, and I'll show you the next one though. This is a 4-bay. It's a roughly 25,000. You'll see on the very end there's infant swings and there's 4 regular belt swings. What I'd like to do, or what I'm going to do, is I'm going to add a freedom swing to each of our playgrounds. And that's a swing for like disabled kids that don't have the balance or don't have the grip strength. I'd like to get one of these, and they're not super expensive, but I'd like to get one of these at each of our playgrounds. And then to give you an idea of like how prices change, this is the playground we put up with the first part of grant. It was 2012. It includes a 2-bay swing. It's got all the features that we were looking for. It was $31,000 when we bought it in 2012. This is the playground we just put in for this part of grant. It's roughly, I'd say, a half the size, no swings, and it came in at $27,500. So the prices are going to change. So basically, what you would need to decide is the desired features you want to have on a playground, and then the desired cost of what you want to pay. And if you say, Matt, we trust you to go, here's $100,000, go find us a few designs, I can do that. You can pick, you can take one of these designs that are in front of you and tell me what you want, if you like any of these. But you basically tell me how much you want to spend and what you want on it, and I can make it happen.
What is put the first one back up there again.
The first one of which one? The 60,000?
Yeah.
Bars? That's Bars, $60,000 version. It's 57.5. It's roughly the same size as what we have, a few feet bigger, or the play surface. No swings included. But you could get, that would be your $60,000 version. Now I'd have to have them. The $60,000 were quoted back in September, so I'd have to re-quote those to make sure. But I'm sure it would be similar.
So you said that your project this year right now looks like it'll be a ramp. Looks like it's about $30,000.
That's one of the things at the Grove.
That's one of the things.
Yeah.
So we budgeted $100,000
Yep.
a year. Is that correct?
No, but $100,000 this year.
This year, okay.
But I'll do $100,000 next year too, man.
Well, that's what I'm asking you, because I mean, if I just did my math right, if we spend $150,000, and it's what is the construction timeline from the time you order it to the time we pay for it to the time we build it?
The construction timeline takes a while. It'll be the spring before it even close.
Okay, so we'll be potentially, depending on when we decide something, potentially in the new budget year, right? Potentially.
Next July?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it all depends on what you guys decide when you want to put this in.
Well, I mean, and the lifetime of these, is there warranty with these things? How long?
Usually you get like a 10-year or 20-year time period. I have to check with that. I had to put a slide on the one that's currently there. It was 10 years out, and I was able to slide in under that warranty time and put a brand new slide on. It didn't cost us anything.
Well, if you say 150 times 20 years, that's not but $7,500 a year. I mean, for the cost of a playground.
A playground's lifetime is right at 20 to 25 years.
20, 25.
And you say that includes the border and stuff. What are you saying?
That includes the border and stuff.
There's a mat up underneath?
No, the border and the surfacing is a wood fiber surface. Now, if you want to go with a poured rubber surface, it'll probably be half again as much. The wood fiber surface is what we have on the playgrounds that I showed you that we just put in. They are considered to be handicap accessible. I don't know if you can really see it. That's a wood fiber surface. It's not sand. It's like wood chips.
That's mulch. So
mulch, yeah, basically.
We have to go and redo that mulch every year, right?
Not every year. You do have to redo it. That one, this one right here, we've done, it's been in for 10 years. We've probably done it 3 times, somewhere in there. I would say it's, I'm sorry.
Thank you. So how much is this handicap cap?
The swing?
Yeah.
They're not expensive. I could get probably.
How much of it is handicap accessible?
Oh, all of it. They all have ramps
All
on
of
it.
it is?
Well, no, I mean they can get into it, and that one of the swings I want to get is going to be for like disabled kids, but they can, if they can get into it and they can get on it, I mean they can get to anything. Now it's not like a what do you call the fields that are just for, Smithfield has one, what's it called? Yeah, it's not that, but it's not like a ball field that has like, it's just wheelchair accessible. But in order for Pardiff to, like, these two playgrounds that we'd have already put in, Pardiff they have to be handicap accessible, and that is, there's a ramp, you can see the ramp on the picture on the right, and the wood surfacing is considered handicap accessible. They're supposed to be able to get down around on it.
But I guess what I'm asking, is that just for the swings? Is that the only thing that would be?
I mean, that would be the only thing, like disabled, they have that they could get in, but they can get on anything if the kids can move. You know, if they have any kind of mobility, anything, the steps are low enough where they can get up on anything.
What are you looking for tonight?
I'm looking for you guys to give me an idea of what you want.
So you budgeted $100,000.
Yep.
You're spending 30, or have you got other things to do out there with that?
Well, I was planning on doing some brickwork if we needed it, and like adding asphalt work if we needed it. But I don't want to lowball the ramp because I want to use Forever Deck. I want the stuff to be nice, and I want it to last. The first quote we got, $22,000 for wood, $27,000 for a Forever Deck. So that was the first quote. What? Right, exactly. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's important to note too. Like, he got a lot of quotes in September. They've already gone up. So once we find something, we need to probably roll on it. But obviously, they're more expensive than what they were 6 years ago. So that's just what we're running into with everything.
With everything.
Yeah.
Basically,
so
what I'm
looking
for tonight is, hey, this is what we want to spend, and this is what we want to see on
I
it.
feel like we could get at least $30,000 on a 95% match, at least.
No, between 20 and 30,000, about 25 to 30,000 is what the open space fund is going to be
For the county.
for the county.
So say 25.
Yeah, 25.
Okay.
I would say that's a fair number. We just spent 30.
To me, that's the center of town, and that's
Absolutely.
the most used part that I see. Every time I ride by there, there's kids. I would be dissatisfied with anything that you showed me under $100,000 personally.
I agree.
I don't know how we got to find the money, but if we can find the donor, Max.
Max Rayner Playground, Rayner Family Playground, man. Saying.
He takes his grandkids all the time.
But I mean, that's my, if you can think you can get 25 and you think you've got, say, 50 to 60 left in your budget, we're $100,000 all day long.
Okay.
That's the way I feel.
And I agree with you. I think $100,000 would be an appropriate size, appropriate cost. I think once you get into the $150,000, $200,000 range, you're kind of talking overwhelming. Right. It'll almost take over the space.
Make a motion.
I make a motion, you go out there and bring us swing sets to look at that are in the, do you need a motion for that?
I don't think I need a motion for that.
Bring me swing sets in the $100,000
This was
range
more of
and
a
tell me
discussion.
what you want. I mean, realistically. Huh?
He wants $100,000.
Well, he's already got $100,000.
Once you get it, he just wanted to show you guys what he was
I wanted to see
working
what you
with.
get for your buck.
Yeah.
The bang you get for your buck.
Yep.
And if you say, Matt, we want this and swings, I can start making my emails and say, listen, this is what we're looking for.
All right, what's the wishes of the board?
We need to come up and decide on, if somebody came up and said, I want this in my name.
Yep.
We need to decide on what they get in their name.
Yep. Then you need to decide on what it's going to cost too.
That's it.
And I can tell you now, the only thing we've ever discussed so far is the ball fields and the field house and the gymnasium. Ball fields are $25,000 each, field house is $100,000, and the gymnasium was $100,000.
I say we pay for the playground equipment, and then if somebody wants naming rights, we get in about a $15,000 swing set with arches, and then everything's taken care of. That'll give
That's
them a
up to you
15-year
fellas and ladies.
15-year naming right and $1,000 a piece.
So, who has a motion?
There's not a
There
motion
doesn't
needed.
need to be. This is
All
just a
right, well,
discussion.
just do what you need to do and bring it back.
And you do the same. No problem. I'm gonna focus on $100,000. Try to get some swings involved and see what our cost is gonna be. Is there any, now, one thing I do want to know, is there any of these designs that you liked, or do you just want me to bring you back a design, any design? Is there anything that you liked up here?
The only thing that concerns me about all the ones with the fancy netting is what is the maintenance issues on
Yeah.
them?
There's cabling, and it's going to be more than like a regular playground.
I'd rather have a high slide and have something easy to maintain than I would all that netting and have to look after. That's my thought
Okay,
process.
well, then I'm going to focus on, if I can find it, I'm going to focus on these two, that one, and that one.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, I like that one.
I like that
Too
one.
high.
Oh, that's perfect.
Well, you stay off of it then.
There's a lot of rails and stuff.
You can use a little slide.
First
Hey,
time
I
one
guarantee
falls
you
from
the
up
old
there.
slide that was in the grove was probably as high as that one.
I'd have to check the specs on it, but it was pretty big.
I like the way that one looks.
Okay. So that was bars. That's a good pick, because that one right there, they quoted the swings at 13, and it's a 3-bay swing, and it was really nice. So, okay. So I'll bring it back. It'll be something close to 100.
Thanks for what you do.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, appreciate it.
Town manager's report.
We will be closed on Friday for Veterans Day. I want to remind everybody that we are having a blood drive next Thursday, November 17th from 2 to 7. All the proceeds from the blood drive are going to go to Bama. And then I also want to mention that Martin Marietta is having a food drive and open house on November the 12th from 7 to 3. They are collecting food for Bama for their food pantry, and you can take a tour. So just wanted to plug that for Bama as well. And that's all I got.
Have we had any discussion about a Christmas party this year?
Oh, yes. We have had a discussion. We had a discussion with department heads. We did a survey again with the staff, and staff really likes the drive-through and being able to go home early. So we're thinking the 16th. And next year, I said, this year I'm okay, but next year let's try to bring it back in-house and do something, maybe not after work, but maybe do something at the fire department in the afternoon, or kind of like we did 4th of July. But they really like the idea of the drive-through, so I think that's what we're going to do.
Drive-through.
Do what?
What do you mean, the drive-through?
Where they come through and they get boxed lunches and they get to go home at like 12 o'clock the Friday
So
before.
that's instead of the Christmas party?
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. No Santa.
Okay, town attorney, Ike Parker.
All right, I've got actually something sensitive in my time for a change. Something of a housekeeping measure, though. Now that you have annexed the Cross Point property, if you recall back in March, this board approved economic development incentive grants for 7 years. Once they annexed, that was a contingency. It was the main contingency of approval of that grant. We had the public hearing back in March. We don't need to redo that again. Obviously, we're not having another public hearing. This is the grant agreement. It more or less mirrors the county's, although ours is a little bit different. It keeps with what was approved in March. Unless you want me to, I don't necessarily need to go through the whole thing of it, but it's a major project, so I wanted to just get it in front of you since it has been many months. I've gone back and forth with their counsel that's representing them on that, and we've both agreed with this draft. So the economic incentive grant for taxes would start next year, but I believe, or you can correct me since they're here, but the time period to create for job creation would not start until later. It wouldn't start until, let's see, 2023 is when the tax incentive grant would start, and and run until 29, and the job creation would start in 26. Of course, their construction period obviously is going to be pretty lengthy, so can't have anybody working out there until they get done and get a tenant or tenants.
Believe it or not, I sat down and read this, and I don't see anything wrong with what it compares to what we did before.
Yeah, it's very similar to what we've done before, for instance with Chicopee. But just wanted to put that in front of you. It's been many months since you had your public hearing, and now this really is literally the first, point where you could have approved this, because now you have actually agreed and approved the annexation of the property. So now you will subject that property to taxes, and you can, approve the grant.
I'll entertain a motion.
I make the motion, we approve.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it.
Thank you, that's all I have.
All right. Board of Commissioner report. Max.
I'm good.
I actually don't have a report. I would just like to take this opportunity to thank the town and the staff for all that they've done during the time of my son's death. I really appreciate it. It's been a hard thing, but I'm very grateful to everyone for all the acts of kindness. Thank you.
Will?
No, I'm good.
I don't have anything.
I got one thing. You know, for 2 years now, we've been kicking the can down the road on paving. There's a $500,000 line there, and it'll be added to the first of the year. I don't know why we wouldn't consider taking the streets that's not going to be affected by sewer and water construction to go ahead and pave those streets. And the reason I bring it up is at the mayor's meeting this month, we're going to talk about paving and finding maybe 2 contractors. Well, we put it out to bid, but to include everybody in Johnson County in that bid, which would maybe give us an option of reducing the cost of paving, and that's what everybody's holding back for, because there's so much paving going on now that the cost of materials are high. So,
I can look back at it.
huh?
I can look at it.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session.
I make a motion
Closed session.
All in favor, say aye.
after a
We'll
5-minute
take,
recess. 5-minute recess.
Yeah, we'll take a 10-minute recess or a 5-minute recess to go to the bathroom.
I mean, you have to say 10 minutes. No,